Hello and welcome to CIPD Bitesize. In this video, we're going to be looking at AC 1.3 from the 5003 unit, which is professional behaviors and values in practice. Now, to start with, we're going to focus on the case study. So you've recently taken a position as a HR and L&D advisor at Nexxobyte. It's a rapidly growing software company. Nexxobyte was established 2 years ago by Kit. It's the only director until recently joined by a new business partner, Asia. The organization's grown quickly and organically and currently consists of 23 software engineers in 3 teams, 2 administration staff and 2 directors. Since joining Nexxobyte, the second director, Asia, has been concerned about the way things are being run and has brought you in to try and help make improvements. Asia's main concern is the lack of standard procedures and the lack of management capabilities. None of the 3 team leaders have management training or experience prior to being informally allocated to their roles by Kit, with Kit fully occupied by marketing and promoting the business. The team managers have been free to recruit and manage their teams as they choose, calling on administration staff for support when required. Consequently, the teams have been managed quite differently, leading to inconsistent practices, e.g. different working arrangements, different access to paid L&D. Several employees have complained and the loss of some valuable staff has been had. Okay, so that's the scenario. AC 1.3 of this unit, Asia has emphasized she wants you to be a firm voice for people in people practice at Nexxobyte. And this means communicating with the management team in an informed, clear, and confident way to convince them of the need to change and new ways of working. Question then goes into consider, that's your verb for this particular question, why it's important to communicate in this way, and 2 potential consequences, one for you, one for Nexxobyte, if you are unable to do so. Now, think about it from this perspective. Let's say, for example, you've got a rogue manager, and a rogue manager just wants to go off and do whatever he wants. And he wants to act unethically. He wants to fire people whenever he sees fit. He wants to demote people. He wants to promote people. He lets certain people take time off without putting it on the system. What are you going to do as HR? By not taking action, you create situations where you could be sued. You can create unfair employment cases from other team members by not doing it. If you just get walked over, that could happen. What this question wants you to really think about is, what is the role of HR in terms of being a challenger, in terms of being an instigator for change, in terms of being accountable, in terms of being responsible. Because so many times you hear people within HR saying, oh, well, I'd want to make the change, but the director says this, and we've just got to do this, and we've just got to do. Well, the point of this is, if HR wants to be at the table, if HR wants a seat at the table, HR wants to be treated as another member of the board, needs to be able to communicate in a clear, informed, and confident way. It's none of this I think stuff. It's all evidence shows, evidence shows, evidence shows, and we are working, and the financial consequences for not doing this are evidenced. And that's what CIPD wants you to get into the view of. The way that these questions are all set up is evidence showed anyway, but think about it from that perspective. Do you want to be just dictated to, and you do end up just doing things like 2P redundancies, arranging Christmas parties, or do you actually want to look at the problems of the business and say, we need to do this and we need to change this? And this particular question wants you to think about the consequences of not doing this. Because many HR people talk about this in terms of, oh, well, we want a seat at the table. Well, you get a seat at the table when you contribute and you're able to argue your point. And that's kind of what you want you to think about. So if you consider why it's important to communicate, or why is it important that the business treats people fairly? Why is it important that it recruits people in good ways? Why is it important that we treat people with well-being, dignity, equal pay? Why is that important? And what are the consequences if we don't? So it's cause and effect it wants you to research on this question. So consider just means, from a verb perspective, you're looking at it from multiple angles. Important to communicate. Why is it important? It's not just important. I think it's essential. to communicate in this way, which is informed, clear, and confident, and 2 potential consequences, 1 for you, 1 for Nexxobyte. Now, as with everything on CIPD Level 5, we now create what's called a study plan or an answer plan so that you can break your question down. So again, how you would lay your work out is AC1.3, and then you write your work underneath. But question 1.3, your verb is consider. Is a scenario required? Yes, because Nexxobyte is the company, so we need to reference Nexxobyte in this. And the question says you've got to think about 1 for you and 1 for the organization. Word count is 400. Questions 1 to 6, you have 400 words per AC. You have a total word count for this particular unit of 2,400 words. So that's 400 words per AC. What the action points? Action point 1 is consider why it's essential for you. Action point 2 is consider why it's essential for the organization. Now, when you're making the argument, it's not I think, evidence shows. This is this data, this is this statistic, this is this piece of information, this is the data to make this argument. So again, it's not I think, it's evidence shows. Change your mindset from I think it's this. You can, I suspect it's this, I'm going to find the evidence to back up my thinking. That's fine. But it's evidence shows, and then you argue your point in the answer. We want to see, in answers like this, we want to see really clear, really confident, really informed pieces of answers so that we can say you understand why it's essential for HR to have a strong voice in an organization. So if you don't have a strong voice, and you go with the I think, well, what's the difference? What's the difference between your I think, this manager's I think, and the CEO's I think turns into a hierarchical structure of I thinks, with the person at the top saying, well, I think this, and therefore I'm going to be right. Whereas if it's evidence showed, well, what you're trying to argue then is research of thousands of people, thousands of employees, thousands of business opportunities, and what is your I think worth against a bucket load of evidence? That's what CIPD wants you to get to with this. Now, as always, just here's a quick example of it filled out, which is, 1.1, what your verb is, scenario. By all means, pause the video, copy this down, work out your answer plan, work out your structure. Make sure you're addressing Nexxobyte, make sure that you're addressing this, make sure you've got the question clear in your head, make sure you've got what your actions are clear in the head, and then just find the evidence to back up what you think. As always, we've got some recommended reading for you, because we're good like that, which is CIPD, the Professional Courage and Influence Guide. Evidence-based HR. This is the main thing that I rattle on about all the time, which is just, it's not I think, it's evidence shows, evidence-based HR. And research influence and power of relational dynamics. Why it's important that if you've got evidence, you're going in empowered, not just as yourself, you're going in empowered by full thing of research. You're not going to win every argument. You're not going to win every view, but the more you get used to just saying, I think this is wrong because of X, X, and X, and not just because I think it's wrong, the better your voice becomes, the stronger your voice becomes, because you're not arguing for you. Remember, you're a people professional, you're arguing for the people of the organization. So, as always, to try and just come at the question from a slightly different angle, we give you a fictitious scenario. Just a little bit of a story, just to sort of give you a different view on the question, just so you can come at it from a slightly different one. And in this one, imagine you're planning a hike, because you need a flag for a hike, it seems. The engineers, and you've still got your HR badge on, because it seems you've got your HR badge on everywhere you go. The engineers, product marketing are all discussing the most efficient route to the peak. They're looking at maps, they're considering factors like distance, elevation, and whilst this is crucial information, it doesn't take into account the hikers themselves. The engineers go, oh, we just go straight up here, this is straight up the mountain, whereas the marketers are going, oh, well, actually, there's a view over here, if this is a real Instagrammable spot. But nobody's thinking about the actual people and their ability to do this particular hike in this particular direction. So the people professionals are like the experienced hikers on the team. They can contribute by being informed of the team's experience level, fitness, endurance, potential limitations, injuries, dietary needs, or particular issues, let's say when it comes to diabetes or something like that, and making sure that everything's right. They're being clear. They can translate to the engineers the technical jargon and the teams about the difficulty of the hike. And being confident they can advocate for rest breaks, scenic tours, and alternative routes to consider the team's well-being and morale. By effectively communicating these human factors, people professionals influence the decision-making process. They ensure that the chosen route is not just the most efficient, it's not just the Instagrammable one, but it's enjoyable for everyone, leading to a more successful hike and everyone reaching the goal. That's the purpose of this particular question. Don't need a flag to be able to do this. Absolutely best of luck with this question, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.